Dirty beats. Rap now, cry later. Am I a chronic abuser? Trying to steal a limelight like Red and Met stole a deucer. Without your pack of lies, all pack of shooters. Just my wise guys in a pack of...
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Adrenaline Rush podcast here on the UWN, the Urban Wrestling Network. I am Mike Larkin, and joining me as always is Mr. DC and the place to be, baby, Daniel Crimmins. Crim. What is up, Dan?
Oh, nothing but a dream, my man. Nothing but a dream.
That's how it is.
Got a gorgeous October day, getting ready for Halloween.
Living the dream, spooky season, man. Getting the candy ready for all the little kitties and eating some candy at the same time. It's a good time to be alive, brother.
To quote Brock Lesnar, I don't give a shit about your kids.
Heath Slater style. Oh, my goodness gracious. But yeah, no. Here's the thing, guys. It's the Adrenaline Rush podcast. It's another edition. We have a great topic today, man. We're going to be talking about the tag teams in TNA/Impact Wrestling. And I figured before we get to it, man, news broke out as former TNA tag team champion and TNA wrestler Chris Harris, the Wildcat, gets arrested for DWI, DUI, the whole shebang. Oh, that mugshot is rough.
Yeah. He looks pretty rough. I know he had some health issues in years past. But damn, dude, like, somebody close to him needs to, like, grab him and shake him and just say, dude, stop. Like, and now, for those of you that don't know, yes, Chris Harris was a former WWE talent. As such, he can take advantage of the wellness policy and get help. The amount, and they'll cover it for as many times as it takes. I mean, heck, look at Scott Hall.
Mm-hmm.
There was an interview with Stephanie McMahon a number of years back where they asked her about how much money they spent on Scott Hall and trying to get him better. She didn't say exact figures. She said, but it's high six figures, if not more.
That's what they could do with Chris Harris. But the thing I will also say about this is, well, first and foremost, he was there for 3 weeks. But still, he was a former WWE superstar.
A little bit longer, but like that was how long he was on TV for.
Exactly. Now, I remember, it's funny because we're talking about this. When he lost to Judas Macias, Ricky Banderas, and then he was on his way to WWE. There was a photo that came out around that time in 2008 where you could tell like he had let himself go because he did a dark match with Shelton Benjamin that year, and I saw the photo, what he was wearing. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell happened to Chris Harris?
Are you talking about the black singlet?
Yes.
The Braden Walker.
Braden Walker singlet. Yeah, man.
The sad thing is, like, I think when they were looking at him, you know, I think initially they had wanted him and Storm. But I think if I remember right, Storm re-signed.
Yes, he re-signed.
And I think, if I remember right, it was like at the last minute, like Harris had already signed.
Mm-hmm.
Storm, you know, at the last second pulled out, and you know, it's like, okay, we already got, you know, we don't have, you know, the whole package, but we got this guy.
It's funny because his tenure was he beat Armando Estrada. Then the next week, him and Matt Hardy were backstage, and Matt Hardy goes, "You're like a wildcat, aren't you, Braden Walker?" We're gonna reference. And then he beats what's his face, James Curtis. Remember Casey James? That's who James Curtis was. And that was it for old Braden Walker.
Hey, Mike, knock.
Who's there?
Braden Walker.
I'm gonna knock your brains out.
But you know what? And also, in addition to Impact and just wrestling in general, I do want to address something that happened towards the end of last week: the passing of Mr. Reggie Parks.
Yes.
Now, for those of you who are not aware of who Mr. Parks is, Reggie Parks is the creator of some of the finest professional wrestling championship belts that we've all seen. I mean, he created the Winged Eagle, the classic Intercontinental, the old style tag team titles that, we remember seeing, famously held by the Brain Busters, Demolition, Heart Foundation, Money Inc. I think, trying to think who else may have had them. I think the Rockers won them on a house show.
Yeah, well, very briefly, that was the one when they like scrapped that one out of there on a Saturday. It's main event, and they give it back to the Heart Foundation. Yep,
And
never happened. APA, talking about the Guns. We're talking about the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys.
Now, he also, since we're a Impact podcast, he did create 2 titles that Impact used. He created the NWA World Tag Team Championships that were used from 2002, when TNA started, up until NWA pulled out, which, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like mid 05, 06-ish.
Yes, because they did the TNA World title and it with the TNA Tag titles around like 07. So yeah, around 05, 06.
Yep, if I remember right, the Team 3D were the NWA Tag Team Champions at that time. I think they beat AMW, maybe?
Yes, and then I remember around that time they were doing the feud with LAX, that electrified cage match, which was awful. But yeah, around that time.
That was on par with the barbed wire steel cage match between JBL and
The Big Show.
no more Big Show Paul White.
Oh, Paul White, yeah. God almighty. Don't bring me back that. I'm sorry, folks. No Way Out 05. They tried it for the first time and the only time, barbed wire cage didn't work.
It was bad. Like, if I remember right, it was plastic tipped.
Yes.
And how did that match end? Oh, that's right. JBL got chokeslammed through the ring and crawled out.
Yep, that was it.
If I had been in the crowd that night, I would have been pissed.
Oh, me too. I mean, such a lackadaisical kind of finish, man. I don't blame you.
I mean, we got to do a special sometime of like the worst professional wrestling finishes. That'd be out there.
Oh, there's a lot in TNA. For instance, James Storm and Chris Harris in the blindfold match from 2007. That was god awful. That match in itself is just the shits.
The Victory Road incident.
With Jeff Hardy and Sting, yeah. There's a lot to cover when we get to that because there's a lot of crap.
We'll talk about that.
Well, yeah, we had Christy Hemme and the big fat oily guy because that was when they were making fun of Big Dick Johnson.
Now, the other championship that Reggie Parks created for Impact, and it was a very simple design. I'm talking, of course, the NWA TNA X Division Championship with the big red X right in the center.
Held by so many great men around that time. Michael Shane, Matt Bentley, Chris Sabin, Jerry Lynn, Low Key, AJ Styles, Kid Cat, Amazing Red, yep, Joe. Chris
Daniels had it too.
Yes, Christopher Daniels. I mentioned Low Key. Oh my God. Petey Williams will be here all day.
Little Petey Pump.
Little Petey Pump, but yeah. Well, this was before that. I'm talking about Team Canada days. Like when he was 04. Here's the thing, and I'm going to mention this about Petey Williams because this ties into what we're talking about. Petey Williams, when you first saw him do the Canadian Destroyer, you were like, oh my God. Like this. Yeah. Now it's just like everybody does it, which is true, but it makes the move feel not as special as it used to.
And do not talk about it to him on Twitter.
Yes.
Do not talk anything other than the Canadian Destroyer, or he will put you in your place.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know what? Well, he should. Like I remember hearing about it. On the message boards back in the day, before Facebook and
before social media took over.
Actually, no, I think this was even in like the old MySpace days.
Yes, because that was around 04 to 06. Yeah, that's early MySpace. Yep.
And I just remember hearing about this guy, and this move, a sunset flip pile driver. And I remember hearing that, and I'm thinking to myself, like, without seeing it, like, you think in your head, like, how is that supposed to work? Like, how do you do that? Like, and other people have done it. I think Adam Cole, Bebe.
Panama Sunrise, yep, he's done it.
Rey Mysterio Jr. has his version.
Well, think of like Amazing Red. It's like almost the Code Red. It's like almost like the Code Red, the Sunset Flip Bomb.
But you know what? The thing about that is, yes, other people have their version, but it's not the same. It's not as good.
It's not. And Petey Williams okay, so here's what they did. I remember he wrestled Eli Drake for the Impact World title in like 2017, 2018, around that time. And Eli Drake, I believe, was the first person to ever kick out of the Canadian Destroyer. Because that was like a big thing, like, because nobody kicked out of the Canadian Destroyer. Because they protected that move for years.
I wonder whatever happened to Eli Drake. I hear he's spending nights in L.A. somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, he's next up on the chopping block, man. That's all I'm saying.
But you know what? That guy, he's going to go to the moon.
Yes, he is. We're going to be talking about Chevrolet as well, because he was a part of some of the tag teams that we're going to talk about in this particular episode. So, Dan, let me segue to the first one, because we talked about him. Chris Harris, James Storm, AMW, America's Most Wanted. We find the defendants guilty. One of my favorite theme songs around that time. Obviously, we can't talk about him without talking about the Triple X feud, the cage match, Helix Skipper walking the tightrope, the Team 3D feud where they're at the funeral and they're doing the funeral of Team 3D.
I do want to add with that spot that, you know, it's on every single TNA package.
Yeah, the Hurricane Rana.
And, you know, for folks that maybe, you know, haven't really seen the TNA cage match, this isn't like the WWE or the AEW cage where, you know, you get to the top and, you know, you have like a little, this is like fence style cage where, you know, you have like a little steel bar that's maybe, 3 inches wide?
Pretty much, yeah. With the structure.
Like, you can't, you know, dither about. Like, you got to just go. And you got to have, your balance has to be on point. But again, absolutely fantastic. You know, it's, you know, back to AMW, absolutely perfect tag team. You know, it's multi-time NWA tag team champions. Did they hold the TNA tag titles? I think they maybe once.
No, I think they were mostly the NWA tag champs, because when James Storm went over with Robert Roode, which we'll get to beer money soon, that was the TNA tag titles. That him.
Oh yeah, that's right. When he was with Big Bob.
Big Bob. Oh my God, I'm sorry, but it reminds me of Bob's Burgers, Big Bob's Beepers, Hey Arnold on Nickelodeon. Yep. Fucking Big Bob. What the hell's wrong with that?
Literally, nobody has called him Big Bob ever.
Nobody has ever called him Big Bob. Bobby fucking Roode. He went from Glorious to Big Bob. Oh my God.
He went from one of the most successful runs he had in Impact to the glorious bombs and NXT with Ciampa and Gargano,
which was awesome. And then he gets to the main roster and he goes to shit.
Well, he had an okay run at first, but again, they ruin things. You can't have nice things with them.
Yeah, I mean, he had the U.S. title run, and then he pretty much went nowhere after that.
Yeah.
Depressing, but what's not depressing is AMW and Triple X, AMW, LAX, AMW, and the Naturals, which here's the thing why I love the Naturals. These two have had great matches together in cages and a great feud, but what I love was their finishing maneuvers. Like, I love the death sentence. Harris holds him, Storm comes up. No, which one was holding him? I think it was Storm holds him, and then Harris came off with the leg drop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The death sentence was great. It reminded me of the old Vegematic, you know what I'm saying? Bobby Eaton coming off the top of that Alabama Jam. Naturals had the Natural Disaster, which was a great crisp maneuver. Great double team finishers, and they were both amazing. I mean, it's funny because Chase Stevens came back on Impact last year to do something. I know we wrestled Moose, and we saw him very briefly. Andy Douglas is retired. I think he's like a chiropractor now, so, I mean, good for him. But, yeah, man, you still see Chase Stevens in this thing from time to time.
And, I think we need to do an honorable mention tag team. that team that wasn't around in Impact very long, but a truly elite tag team known as Generation Me.
It was one of the dumbest names ever. And I like the Young Bucks, but Generation Me, Max Max and Jeremy Buck. Oh, no. For God's sake. I will say this. They did have great matches with the Motor City Machine Guns. I do remember that they wrestled Eric Bischoff and Matt Hardy on an Impact, and Eric Bischoff pinned one of them. So they could say they lost to Eric Bischoff. But yeah, man, when they were the X Division against the Abyss and Immortal and all that stuff, it was just no. The Generation Me boys. The best thing about their run was the Motor City Machine Guns feud.
No, the best thing about that run was them leaving.
You hated Generation Me. You hated the name. You hated the whole thing.
And I'm gonna get blacklist. I'm not a fan of the Bucks.
That's understandable because with style, they're more kind of like, I'll be honest with you, they're the spot fest. There's no like story. It's just spot.
Now, you and I have talked about this before. To me, the mark of a truly great tag team is when both sets of competitors can work singles.
Very true. And the thing was,
the reason I mention this, what happens if your partner goes down? And we're not talking about WWE where they take you off TV even if you are fine and your partner's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me that makes no sense. But you look at guys like we'll use AMW. Chris Harris, his singles run in TNA was not bad.
I mean, they had him and Storm when they culminated in that Texas death match was absolutely amazing. They had a great feud. I will forget the Black Rain feud. I try to forget the Black Rain feud.
Never happened.
Oh, God. The rat. Misty the fucking rat with friggin' Chris Harris and oh no. I try to forget that. But yeah, that was like towards the end of his TNA run was the friggin' Black Rain feud. That was horrible. When he was wrestling Storm, it was great. But once we got to like Black Rain, that's when it sucked. I mean, he had a great match with Christian Cage and they featured him in the King of the Mountain that year. That was good. But once you got to later 07, early 08, that's when Chris Harris kind of went down the shitter as far as single. And James Storm was great. I mean, he had that feud with Eric Young for the beer drinking title. Remember the beer drinking title?
I do.
Oh.
And the little scoot, the beer cooler scooter.
The boozer scooter. The boozer scooter.
But it's you mentioned Black Rain. His tag team partner was
Relic,
who I believe at one time wrestled for WCW.
Yes, and WWE.
As what was his name?
Johnny the Bull Stamboli.
Oh yes, I tell you, Black Rain, what a natural talent.
Yes, well, that was a natural disaster of a gimmick. You know what's funny, too? Like, we were talking about the Boozer Cruiser, and we were talking about Relic Killer spelled backwards. He did that gimmick in Mexico, which was around the time. Remember when Mark Jinjak was very big in Mexico as Marco Corleone? That was when Relic was around there, and I think he was on that Lucha Libre USA show. Remember that was on MTV for, like, a brief moment?
Yeah.
He was there. Oh, Rebby Hardy was on that show. Fucking Rebby Sky. Ugh.
Let's not talk about her. We don't want an angry tweet.
No, I don't want anybody coming at us with an angry tweet. No thanks. But no, yeah, oof.
Yeah, that Black Rain. He. I think he had some shattered dreams.
I think it was time to put the curtain call on him in TNA.
And I think it was time to hit the roads, if you will. I'm sorry, I'm out of analogies.
Yeah, me too. But no, well, Dustin Rhodes will even admit that was one of the times. Well, this also actually fits because him and Relic were a tag team for a short time. That was one of his points in his life where he was just at a low, and he was Relic was just dumb because Johnny the Bull Stamboli name was Relic, and just he added nothing. And they did that in that fucking match, the Shop match, and he comes out of the fucking thing, the box, and it's just like, What the fuck?
And I'll be honest. He is a talented guy,
Mm-hmm.
but the gimmick did nothing for him. You're telling me that you couldn't find anybody, and recreate the FBI, the full-blooded Italians, with him?
I mean, you had something with Vito, Trinity, and the thing that they were doing with Glenn Gilberti and Johnny Swinger. They were the NYC, the New York Connection. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a thing. That was like their version.
Disco Inferno.
Oh, well, Disco Inferno's going to be in there, man, because him and Swinger were a tag team. Then Vito came along. Trinity was the best thing because Trinity was fine as wine. And then she had her brief run in ECW with little Guido and Tony Mamaluke as a part of the FBI.
Now, again, so many great teams in TNA. And, you talk about darker gimmicks.
Mm-hmm.
Decay. And I'm not talking about the current iteration. I'm talking about Abyss and Crazy Steve.
Yes, we are not referring to Black Taurus and friggin' Crazy Steve and Rosemary and now Havoc in there. It's good, but it will never beat Abyss, Crazy Steve, and Rosemary.
I will say this, like, if you listen back, I believe it was last week where we had mentioned, 2 weeks ago when we mentioned Abyss.
Yes.
I really think DK kind of breathed new life into Abyss.
Yes. I mean, I think the last tag team we saw before this, I mean, Joseph Park and Eric Young was a thing. Now, I remember when Abyss was teaming with Matt Morgan for that back in the day. That was the match where Abyss went into the fiery tables. But yeah, I mean, Abyss and Matt Morgan was okay. But I mean, his best incarnation, like Abyss teamed with Kid Cash. He teamed with AJ Styles. Like, he's been in many tag teams, but the best thing that he had was Decay. And like you said, it rejuvenated him. It also it rejuvenated Crazy Steve because Crazy Steve was in the friggin' menagerie, which was cool, but it was floundering. It was going nowhere. And then they made him darker, and it worked.
Because they didn't know what to do with the menagerie.
They didn't. I mean, you had Rebel, who was Reba, now on AEW. You had Rob Terry, who was he was the freak. You had Nux, fucking Mike Knox. And yeah, like, you had Crazy Steve. It was a plethora, man. It was like their version of the Oddities.
And kind of like a odd kind of Wyatt family.
Yes, I can see that. Not as creepy and dark as the Wyatt family, but creepy.
No, I'll be perfectly honest. This pull up my calendar here.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta see what date we're looking at. So we are looking at Thursday, October the 14th, as we are recording this, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. In 15 days, actually 14 days, 1 hour, and 5 minutes. Hmm. Wyndham Rotunda, a.k.a. Bray Wyatt, a.k.a. Husky Harris, will be a free man.
I'm going to put it like this. I don't see him going to AEW. If he was to go to Impact or to be with the Decay or do something of that form, that would be cool. If he's in AEW, Dark Order, whatever. But I think the spot for him is Impact because we're in a day and age where now everybody's like, oh, let's go to AEW. I'm like, the Iconics didn't go to the AEW. The Inspiration are now in Impact.
You did not just compare Bray Wyatt to the Iconics.
I'm saying as far as the free agents go now, Dan. I'm saying not everybody has to go to AEW. All right, we'll touch upon this very briefly.
That statement was definitely not iconic.
Iconic? No. So Dan, we have the Inspiration now are challenging Decay, Rosemary and Havoc for the Knockouts tag titles. Everybody's up in arms because they're just coming in and getting a title shot. I think the match will be good. I'm sure they wrestled each other in Shimmer and on the Indies before. But yeah, man, a lot of people are not happy that they're just coming right in and getting the title shot.
You see, here's the thing. Here's why at times I do not understand wrestling fans.
Yeah, this is one of those times, man.
And again, you and I have, brought this up about certain people. They complain about, certain people getting title shots fresh off the bat. And yes, there is something to that. Hmm. But like them or not, the Iconics are going to get eyes on the product. I'm sorry, but how much has Christian Cage moved the needle for Impact Wrestling?
I mean, when you have someone who's as legendary as him, I mean, when he was the NWA champion, people went nuts. He quit WWE, and came in.
Like a little bit like that. Just.
I mean, it gives him a veteran to work with. And when you think of the lineage of the TNA, the Impact title, Christian Cage's name is in there. But like I said, yeah, I mean, what are they doing on Access? Like over 100,000 views?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it is what it is.
Now, don't get me wrong. I like Christian Cage. I do.
Me too.
But at the same time, the whole thing with Kenny, again, that was shocking. But how long did that last?
Not long, because he wins the Impact title, then he's doing the stuff with Ace Austin and Brian Myers, and now he's going against Josh Alexander. But they're not doing much with him right now in AEW. You're mostly seeing him do the Impact stuff.
You're seeing him backstage.
Doing nothing, just hanging out, chilling.
He doesn't need the world title at this point.
That's why I said I think he's going to drop it to the Walking Weapon at Bound for Glory, rightfully so. And then it gives Josh Alexander a big boost.
You know, he's got Josh Alexander. He has that intangible it factor.
He does.
You know, he's a guy who, and you and I have touched on in the past, we've talked about it. He's somebody that you can build your company around. He started with Ethan Page in the North, which, you know what? If they had done this whole forbidden door, but you do. If that was still a thing back then, I wouldn't mind seeing them as a team in AEW.
Well, that also brings us to one of the great teams, because the North is definitely on that list of great Impact teams. Like, they come in, they're having the feud with LAX, they're having the feud, they're doing stuff with the Lucha Bros, Rich Swann and Willie Mack. Like, those matches are very good because you got a guy like Ethan Page, who his size, he can move, Josh Alexander can move, and they gel well, and they've known each other for X amount of years. Yep.
You know, it's just, to me, it feels like there's a lot left on the table.
And that's the thing, too, man. They could do more with this AEW Impact relationship. I mean, they've had Private Party and Matt Hardy go over there. They've had Christian. They've had I'm trying to think. Well,
how funny it is to me. If you remember, like 3-4 years ago, didn't Matt Hardy once say that he would never step foot on Impact programming as long as it was owned by Anthem?
And the fact that, you know, him and Ed Nordholm made peace in 2017, and then now and last year he's friggin' in the damn company.
But whatever.
Whatever, man. You do you, man.
That's what I think about the Forbidden Door.
I'm sorry, and I know a lot of people get upset about that because, oh, well, let's see what happens. I've seen what happened for months. There's hardly any Impact talent going over there. I mean, they brought in Hikuleo from New Japan, and they brought in Jay White, but I'm like, oh, and they brought in Finn Juice, but still, it's like, okay.
And you know, I do enjoy that. You know, I love me some Bullet Club.
Me too, and it's good. But I mean, here's the thing: all of their key members went to AEW or moved on. The only ones that are there right now are what? Jay White and the Gorillas of Destiny, and all those other guys. Oh, now Chris Bay is a part of the Bullet Club, hanging around there. So I mean, hey.
You know, it's as the COVID situation overall is getting better.
We're getting back to some sense of normalcy.
Exactly. I would like to see a couple more people from Bullet Club come over. I'd like to see Yujiro Takahashi come over. You know, God, although it looks like maybe they're kind of doing their own thing. Tama Tonga just beat Kazuchika Okada. Which, you know, you and I have talked. I am a huge Tama Tonga fan.
He doesn't give a fuck, and he just beats the crap out of you. And I like his style. He works very, very well. and him and the Gorillas of Destiny, that whole thing works and it gels. It's family. Okada, I love Okada. I think he's amazing. But every time you see Okada, it's Okada. The title always goes back to Okada, or he's doing what have you. You know what I'm saying? I know we put over Jay White, and then he beat Jay White for the title, and he's been having the stuff with Naito, and he's been working with everybody. But still, it's like, god dang, man, it's always Okada.
Yeah. Okada is to New Japan what John Cena was to WWE. He's their franchise.
So you're saying Okada's John Cena and Tanahashi's like Randy Orton?
Similar.
Similar, yeah. Well, that's who's always at the forefront. Is Tanahashi? It's the three names. It's Okada, Tanahashi, and Naito.
See, I would consider Naito your Randy Orton type, where he can work face just fine, but as a heel, he's just
spitting at everybody.
He is perfect. Like the whole thing when he was the Intercontinental Champion, just tossing the belt up in the air and just letting it just
no fucks given.
Now, it got so bad, and I'm a belt guy. You've seen some of my collection,
Yes.
They had a fan show maybe before COVID, I think, and they had the old IWGP Intercontinental title on display.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many pieces missing. Like the banner was hanging by a thread. And maybe it's just because the strap was white. But oh my God, it was dirty. Like honestly, I wouldn't want to even touch it.
I don't blame you after freaking that shot. Fuck that. No, you definitely need a fucking tetanus shot. Jesus, Dan.
Like, I'm sorry, but white, and I'm going to go on a rant here for a moment. Forgive me.
Okay.
White straps on titles, no. The Impact title, the Knockouts title, they used white. Here's the problem with white straps. They get dirty.
Mm-hmm.
You want proof? Next time you see the Raw Women's Championship, or hell, even the SmackDown Women's title, look at the strap. Look closely at the strap. You will see how dirty, even the women's tag titles, because they don't take care of them. Fun fact, the old school Big Gold Championship that was introduced by one of the greatest men to never hold the Impact World's title, Ric Flair, when he introduced that title as the NWA Championship, it was initially brown leather. It was like a dark brown. And that was in like 86-ish, I think, 85, 86. By the time it became the WCW title, it was still technically brown, but it was black because of everything that spilled on it.
Ooh.
We're talking beer?
Yes.
Baby oil or body oil? Champagne? And God knows what else Ric Flair spilled on it.
Hey, man, you're not just... I'm going to say it, man. I'm going to go to that level. You're not just going to say he's like Paige with the NXT Women's title. Yes, I went there, Dan. Yes, I went there. You never know what will be in the nooks and crannies on that belt, Dan.
Now, a fun fact, again, I like to spit out some fun facts for folks. And since I know a bit about wrestling and belts, the Big Gold, the original one, is now owned by a guy named Conrad. He is the son-in-law of Ric Flair.
Conrad Thompson.
Yep. Does a lot of podcasting. Nice guy. And he actually has it. And this is the same belt that Hulk Hogan spray painted NWO on. twice. Actually, 3 times. Because if you remember, when he did it the first time, then lost it to Sting. Or did he lose it to Luger first?
No, I think I'm going to say Sting. I'm going to say that Starrcade 97. Yeah, I'm going to go Sting. Somebody could correct us, but I think it was Sting. I'm thinking it was Sting, Dan.
I almost feel like it was Luger.
Okay, someone can look that up for us. Tell if it was Luger or Sting. Either way,
yeah. Mike, we will settle this next week.
We will definitely settle this next week. Okay.
Gotta give the folks a reason to tune in next week.
Absolutely.
Now, again, so he actually, as they were cleaning it, they still found little specks of black spray paint on it. And he said it was a pain in the butt to clean because there's a lot of detail in that thing. Now, getting back into it, we talked about Decay. They had they're most known for their feud with
the Hardys,
the Demented Brother Nero, and Broken Matt Hardy.
Yes, and his green beans.
He hates green beans.
Fucking green.
Which, fun fact, it apparently is actually a thing for Matt Hardy. I guess he really does not like green beans.
Can we put that to the Matt Facts now? Can we put that as a part of the Matt Facts? Matt hates.
I love, if you follow him on Instagram, he'll actually post them.
It's that food.
The old Matt Facts. He will actually post Matt Facts. And I think it's great. So we had Delete or Decay. Didn't they do 2 of those deletion matches with Decay?
Yeah, there was Delete or Decay, then there was the final deletion, and then it was a total deletion, then it was the final deletion, Delete or Decay. There was another one, nonstop deletion or something like that. But I remember the one with the tag teams where they had Trevor Lee and Caleb Conley were there, the DCC. There was one they threw Shane Helms into the Lake of Reincarnation, and he came out as Sugar Shane Helms as a part of 3 count, and Trevor Lee and Caleb Conley were his Shannon Moore and Evan Courageous. That's what I remember from that. But yeah, no, there was
they had Shane Helms come out with the
shovel,
and talking about the man with 3 H's.
That was amazing. And then they did the. See, that's the problem, because those were so good, and then he goes to do it in WWE, and like we mentioned last time, they fucked it up. That friggin' ultimate deletion.
Because Vince doesn't get it.
And he even said it. He even said it straight up. Matt even said about it on Talk is Jericho, that Vince did not get the whole thing. Everybody loved it, but he was like, I don't get it. I don't know what's so special about this.
Because it wasn't something that he created.
Well, if you
remember years ago, in one of the other groups that you and I are a part of, we were having this. I remember having this discussion. It wasn't long after the final deletion with Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. You always hear about it. You hear everybody talking about it, and I don't like things that are popular. Not at first. The Squid Game Netflix thing, you still haven't seen it, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Squid Game, I have not seen it either, and I don't really care about it, to be honest.
I'll get to it at some point. But I remember hearing about the final deletion, and I just thought, it sounded stupid to me.
And then you watch it.
You sit down. I remember I had a day off from work, and I remember, actually, no, I had just gotten home. It was like it is now, late at night. And I was sitting at home watching it, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay.
It's nothing we've ever seen. It's different, and it goes, man. That's what you want to see in professional wrestling, something we've never seen before. Something else.
You have to take a chance. You have to take a shot. Some things aren't going to work, but then they are.
Well, remember what they did, Dan, right? So the thing was so popular that the WWE did the Wyatt family and the New Day at the Wyatt compound.
God, that was horrible.
But they're fighting in the mud, and Xavier Woods is scared to death of Bray Wyatt, and then everybody in the sheet mask comes out, and it just they tried, but it was not going to be what we saw in Impact at the time. It was not as good.
Even the late great Brody Lee even said it was stupid.
Yep, Luke Harper has gone on record and said that it was stupid and they didn't need to do that.
But we got to do what they do. We got to do
what they do. What is this final deletion? We're going to do something 10 times better. We're going to have him go to the compound. We're going to have a fight.
He said, I remember seeing an interview with him. They were talking about it. And he said, like, everybody was watching it backstage.
Yep, everybody. You were glued.
Because it was something different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think, these matches, when they were in TNA, they worked. Because to tie in from last week with Dixie Carter, because this was still kind of, she wasn't in charge, but she was still kind of like there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I mean, the only thing I will say, we did have some creations like the reverse battle royal. Bro, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have everybody start outside, and we got to get them on the inside, bro.
God, what a dumb idea.
It was dumb. It was one of the worst, voted the worst match of 2007. Bro, here's what we're going to do. We got Angelina Love and we got Velvet Sky. They're a bunch of mean girls, bro. See, my daughter was watching Mean Girls, and I said, hey, and they're beautiful. My son was listening to some Marilyn Manson, bro, and we're going to call them the beautiful people. Now we need some names for Angel Williams and Talia Madison. Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. My son had the porno on, bro, and I saw these two porn stars were named Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. Brilliant. $1 million idea. The beautiful people. The man literally got it from adult stars. They were adult stars, man.
Oh, good old Vince Russo.
He also booked WWF with Ed Ferrara while watching the Jerry Springer show.
But see, back then, he had Vince McMahon to kind of say, dude, no.
It was his filter. And then when he went to WCW, no filter.
Do you honestly think?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this is the creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, Vince, here's the idea for the night, dog, bro. I'm going to book myself to win the title.
It's the prop, bro. He's going to win the prop.
And Vince would have looked at him and would have said, you're not going to win it because I'm going to win it.
But what was different about that is Vince, the whole thing with Vince and Triple H worked because that was the big storyline of '99 with Stephanie with Triple H. That worked. This was just Vince Russo was dressed like a football player, like the Giants. He's going in there against Booker T. Goldberg spears him through the cage and legit pretty much gave him a concussion. And yeah, that was what it was at the Nassau Coliseum. Vinny Rue booking himself in his hometown to win the WCW title.
Goldberg seemed to give a lot of people concussions.
Well, I mean, I think with Vince Russo was personal because he did not like Vince Russo.
Did anybody?
Well, him and Glenn Gilberti get along very well, the Disco Inferno.
But why does that not surprise me?
Well, this is the same guy that wanted to do the Invisible Man, so hey.
So, back to it.
Yes.
I don't think you can talk tag teams, and you mentioned them, LAX. Now, okay. I'm not talking about
Santana.
Back. I'm going LAX 1.0.
Okay, so here's my earliest memory of LAX. It was originally Homicide, Conan, and Apollo, who's from Puerto Rico. He went back to Puerto Rico. That didn't work. Then they brought in a guy by the name of Ricky Vega, who was Machete, and Machete did not work. And then you finally get Big Sean Hernandez, and that became the LAX that we all know and love.
Exactly. To me, that's where it started. And I remember the gimmick. You see these guys, these Hispanic guys come in, kind of similar to the whole Nation of Domination kind of thing.
Yeah. And Conan was a great mouthpiece. He had just broke away from the 3 Live Crew, which again was a tag team. But yeah, and then it's just like, you know what? Y'all are oppressing me. I'm Hispanic. I'm Mexican. Here come my boys. We're going to take over this. You know what I'm saying? And they had... It
was perfect.
Okay. Now, you see, this is where we have to differ on this because I'm going to say it was perfect, but this is where the argument comes in. So it was originally with Conan, but then Hector Guerrero got involved, and we brought in Shelly Martinez as Salinas, which is named after Serge Salinas, Dixie Carter's husband.
I'm talking the original with Conan.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask you because the follow-up to that was Hector Guerrero, and then they brought in Shelly. Did you like that version?
I mean, it was entertaining, but not as good.
No, because all Shelly Martinez did was just dance. And I love Shelly Martinez. She's a beautiful woman, but it didn't add as much with Hector Guerrero there. Conan was the voice.
They could have brought her in, but kept Conan with them.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So a reason why I love the Inversed Incarnation, because it introduced me to one of my favorite tag team feuds. Them against AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels in that cage match that was brutal from Bound for Glory 06. They had a great feud. Then they wrestled with the Dudleys. They wrestled with everybody. You know what I'm saying? But that right there was their first pinnacle feud when they won the NWA tag titles.
Funny.
Yes.
When you mentioned LAX and Pinnacle.
Yes.
Which, we got LAX 2.0. Or Santana and Ortiz.
Can I be honest with you about this, Dan? When they first came in, it was them and Diamante, who's now a part of AEW. And I'm like, no, this is not LAX to me. But then they grew on me because they're very good. But yeah, the first time I saw them, I'm like, this is not LAX. This is not
again, another mark of a great tag team are two guys that just mesh together, that work.
Mm-hmm.
Homicide and Hernandez worked perfect.
Yep.
They had, killer theme music. It worked. And, if I remember right, Conan left TNA. I think there was some kind of something going on.
He pretty much sued them for, racial stuff.
Which honestly wouldn't surprise me if that were the case.
No, and he's talked about it in interviews where they were very, they used some derogatory racial slurs at Monty Brown. So, yeah, I mean, it's out there. Conan's documented it. But yeah, that was around the time then we brought Hector Guerrero in, and then they were pretty much done. Here's the thing that got me. They split up LAX. I remember Homicide hitting Hernandez with that chair, and he was with remember the Elite? It was Eric Young and all those guys, Rob Terry, the British Invasion, the World. And I'm like, you had Homicide turn on Hernandez? Because that's when they wanted to push Hernandez like really, really big as a solo act. And, he was fighting Sting and all these guys. But
honestly,
it
should have been the other way around.
You thought Hernandez should have turned on Homicide?
Exactly. Hernandez should have been the heel. He, had that, that. I don't know, put this. To me, Hernandez always looked like a heel.
And he's better as a heel than a babyface.
He's got that kind of jacked physique, where, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was trained in Texas by some guy named Sean Hickenbottom.
Yes, I believe he was a part of that same school with like Daniel Bryan, all those guys. He was around that time with the Shawn Michaels and all them. Yep, Texas Wrestling Alliance. Yep, in the academy.
I wonder whatever happened to that guy.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's the final countdown is what happened with that guy.
I think he's elite somewhere. Wherever he is, he's an elite guy.
He's an elite guy. He really is. You know what I'm saying? He's an American Dragon. That's what he is.
Yes.
Yes. He is. Oh.
Again, it's. I think the LAX feud. I don't know what else to call it.
Okay.
Good.
So for me, I will say this. So when they brought back the OGs, as they were known, when it was Eddie Kingston with them, Homicide Hernandez against Conan, Santana, and Ortiz, that was a great feud. I loved the feud. It worked. Now, what did not work for me with Hernandez was when they put him with Anarquia, and they were Mexican America. When it was him, Anarquia, and Rosita, better known as Zelina Vega, and Sarita, better known as Sarah Stock, and they were Mexican America, and they were awful. Yeah. They were so bad. It was terrible. Anarquia sucked. Hernandez was Hernandez, but, I mean, you had these two beautiful women in Sarah Stock and Rosita, and just... It didn't even salvage it. It was just not good.
Yeah. Yes, TNA had some great tag teams, some truly amazing tag teams. They also had some bad ones.
They also had the Diamonds in the Rough, which was Simon Diamond, Elix Skipper, and David Young. They were the Diamonds in the Rough.
They also had Pac-Man Jones and R. Trizzle.
They were the tag team champions. They beat AJ and Sting. Oh my God, Mr.
And
Pac.
of course, the NFL would not let Pac-Man Jones get in the ring physical, so
He threw the foot at him.
I think R-Truth wrestled every single match.
And then Pac-Man would get the pin.
And then R-Truth took the pin. I think they were tag champs for what, like a week, 2 weeks?
Very short period of time because I believe they lost to AJ Styles and Tomko at the time.
Oh, good old Tomko.
That problem solver. Oh, remember, he didn't even wrestle, man. R-Truth's opponent, his tag team partner at the time was Austin Creed, who would go on to be Xavier Woods, and then he wrestled in Impact. This Consequences Creed. Him and Jay Lethal were the tag champs very briefly. Lethal Consequences.
I think, I'll tell you that Consequence Creed, I think he's ruling the day wherever he is.
I will have to say he will go up, up, and down, down.
Hopefully. Maybe he'll win a crown somewhere.
We'll never see. Is it made of jewels? Who knows?
Made of jewels and dripping in blood money.
Oh my God. Okay, we gotta stop. Jesus Christ.
So, I think again, another team that, grand scheme of things,
Mhm.
the Wolves. Eddie
Davey.
Edwards and Davey Richards. It's two guys, greatest singles. We both talked about that. But man, were they a great team.
In Ring of Honor, they were amazing, and then they come over to TNA. They had some great matches with the Hardys. They had some great matches with Team 3D. Man, but they had some good matches with, I believe Beer Money was in there as well, or Bobby Roode and all them. God, man, no. They were so good that it's just like, God dang, don't split them. But then they split them, and Angelina Love and Alicia Edwards got involved, and they had that blood feud. And then Davey Richards was gone, and then they made Eddie the single star. They made him the world champ. And yeah, it was something, because when they came in 2014, remember they came in with MVP?
Yeah.
As like his bodyguards, and then they actually let him wrestle.
To me, there's a way to split up a tag team, and there's a way not to.
And that way with Davey Richards and Angelina Love and Alicia and Eddie, as that split was not one of those ways.
No, like you look at in wrestling history, some of the good ways to split up a team, the Rockers.
Yes, one of the absolute best. That sweet chin music, throwing him through the glass and then ripping up the photo. Absolutely.
Who would have thought that? You'd think it would have been Jannetty would have been the guy.
Okay, Jannetty was a screw up, number one, and number two, no.
I mean, back then.
I know, Dan, but the problem is he was so screwed up at the time, and he was not really a good talker. Shawn had that pizzazz, but at the same time, Marty could wrestle, but then they put him with Leaf Cassidy, and him and Al Snow were the thing. Fucking Leaf Cassidy.
Al Snow.
Al Snow. Oh, but no, man, when it comes to the Wolves, like, my things that really stick out with me are the Hardys bouts and the stuff with Team 3D. Like, the tag champs, whether they're solo or not, they stood out also with their tenure in Ring of Honor, like we mentioned. But one other thing I will say, because, Team 3D we mentioned there, I remember when they first came in, I remember they were supposed to be Brother Ray and Brother Devon Deadly, and they were going to be Deadly instead of Team 3D.
Yeah, they're going to be the Deadly Boys.
Deadly Boys. Bubba Ray has said in the shoot interview that it was originally, so if they hadn't left, do you know who they were originally going to be wrestling with?
Oh.
Eminem, Joey Mercury, and Johnny Nitro. Well, they were the hot team at the time, Dan. It was 2005. They brought in Eminem, so the Dudleys were going to work with Eminem.
And, it gives me kind of credence to the idea of, the recent reports of why Bully Ray left WWE.
Yes.
A couple years back.
Yeah. I can see that.
But again, I think the Wolves were absolutely a fantastic team. I think they could have done a little bit more.
Mhm.
I would have loved to have seen it. But again, sometimes the short-term teams work. Another great team, that I feel that we would be remiss if we didn't talk about, the Motor City Machine Guns.
When they first started, like, they did the stuff with Paparazzi Productions, and like we mentioned, one of their matches with Generation Me. The feud with Beer Money and the best of series that they've had, I think it was 7 series, was amazing. Their run against, I mentioned Me, Beer Money, oh my god, like, they've had so many great matches.
Yeah.
Team 3D, the person to kick out of the 3D was Chris Sabin. You know what I'm saying? The Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, the matches with Team 3D will be here all day. But those two gelled so well. They were such good friends, and it worked. And it worked tremendously.
And you know what? I think a mark of a really, really great team is when, they kind of go their separate ways, but then they can come back and it's like, boom, nothing ever happened.
I mean, they came back to Impact against the Rascals, and they had a great tag team match and as a team very briefly not too long ago. But when I look at them, the problem with them for me, Dan, was they were both injury prone. One was getting injured. The other one was getting injured. They were too injury prone.
Yeah, which honestly I think is probably why we didn't see Alex Shelley much in NXT.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but again, it is what it is. I think maybe they were hoping that he'd do more of kind of like a training thing, but
yeah, I mean, they did the thing in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic with bringing back him and Kushida, which was awesome. But yeah, then he's back in Impact with Chris Sabin. Then friggin' Alex gets hurt, and now Chris Sabin's just doing his solo thing. Here's the thing about Chris Sabin's solo thing. It gave me one of my least favorite Option C cash-ins when he cashed in on Bully Ray and won the TNA World Title, and then lost it 3 weeks later.
God, that was stupid.
But Option C, and
how did he win it? How did he win it? Oh, that's right. Bully Ray went for the Bubba Bomb.
Yes, and he hit him with the pipe.
Actually, no, it was a hammer. It
Hammer.
was the ball peen hammer.
Yes, the ball peen hammer. Thank you. Not the pipe. Thank you.
And, Bully Ray falls on his back, and Sabin just sits on him.
1, 2, 3.
2, 3. Like, okay.
Oh my God, Chris Sabin did it. Well, you're coming off of the year after Austin Aries beat Bobby Roode, and then now we had to do it again. I think the only one who cashed it in that really didn't do it, remember Spud cashed it in on Kurt Angle? And they had a great match, but you knew Rockstar Spud was not beating Kurt Angle.
Oh, Rockstar Spud.
Drake Maverick. Drake
Maverick.
Maverick.
I'll be honest. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of his.
It's funny, and he's great. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this, and this might piss off a lot of the AEW fans. He is more of a Spike Dudley than that little shit cricket Marco Stunt.
I'm not a fan of Marco. I'm not.
I'm sorry, but he adds nothing to the team of Jungle Boy and Luchasaur. He's just that little shit cricket that likes to throw himself around, and he's like 2 feet tall. 2 feet tall, excuse me.
Like, he works in a GCW environment.
Yes. All right. He's not. Don't put him on my TV, but you do, because it's Marco.
And he's a fan of Sammy's, so sure.
Okay. Sure.
Again, gotta love Rockstar Spud. He found his niche and he's rocking it.
Oh, absolutely. I think when him and EC3, you can count them as a tag team. When him and EC3 did their stuff in TNA, it was golden. They were hilarious as a part of Dixieland, that whole unit. I mean, we mentioned Team 3D against the teams like LAX and the Steiner brothers and talking about singles matches. Dude, when Bubba Ray started doing the Bully Ray character, it was amazing because Bully Ray, he lost a lot of weight. He took himself seriously. He became a great TNA champion. Devon did his thing. I mean, obviously the Ices and Knights, and he was the TV champ for a little bit. But, I mean, they had some good solo careers in Impact. And, I mean, around this time, remember the Bromans? Friggin' Robbie E., now Robert Stone, and Jesse Goddard's the Bromans. Bro. We had the Bromans, and we had Robbie E. and Robbie T. Rob Terry, the friggin' bouncer of Robbie E.
The whole Jersey Shore gimmick.
Again, it worked because Becky Bayless. But Becky Bayless legit looked like Snooki. And it was funny. I'm sorry. And I like Becky Bayless.
You can like it. That's fine. It didn't work.
But it was popular at the time. It was 2000.
WWE brings in
Snooki. And Zack Ryder was doing the gimmick as well. And that actually at least got over. The internet champion, he got himself over.
Because that's who he is.
That's who Zack Ryder is. Yes, exactly.
That's who Matt Cardona is.
He's the Long Island guy that likes to go by the beach and just hang and go to gym and tan and do all that good stuff.
Gym tan laundry. And, but who did TNA bring in? Angelina, JWoww, and the guy.
Ronnie.
Yeah. The guy who can't keep out of jail.
Oh God, man, you're going there, man. You really can't keep that guy out of jail. Fuck Ronnie, man. Fuck Ronnie. But no, dude, they brought in Angelina, who sucked because she was so nervous and she just was the drizzling shits. JWoww just to get in Cookie's face, and Ronnie actually wrestled with fucking Eric Young.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, there's a way to do it.
Yes,
and there's a way not to.
WWE did it by having her do one fucking move.
And rehearse the fucking shit out of it.
Yes.
And these guys, they should have just been managers, like manage people.
And TNA, they just had, excuse me, that's what I think about friggin' Ronnie and all them in the Jersey Shore. But no, but fucking they brought them in. Angelina sucked. Everybody sucked. You know what I'm saying? It's funny because I had to do it because I saw she was live on Instagram, and I'll say this right now. Angelina, I had to ask the question. I remember when you were in TNA, talk about that match in TNA. She said she had a lot of fun doing TNA. And then she got into it with Carmella on Twitter, and I'm like, bitch, she would fuck you up.
Carmella would wreck her.
Carmella would wreck her. Like, she should not get back into professional wrestling. I know JWoww was dating that friggin' 22-year-old or whatever he is. That was a wrestler, like an independent wrestler. You know about this, right? The guy, that fucking Zach guy who's like fucking 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
It's just no. It's the Jersey Shore again. It was popular then when they started it, but now it's just like it's okay. Well, they're all older now. You know what I'm saying? Mike Sorrentino. Mike, the situation is not the situation of that time period anymore.
And he's gotten himself clean. Great for him. It's not an easy thing to do. So big props to him.
Big props. Man.
I think we've talked Team 3D, or sorry, the Deadly Boys.
The boys.
I think we got to talk about, and you mentioned Triple X.
Christopher Daniels and Elix Skipper, amazing as a team. You also throw in Low Key in there. Like their music was even great. That the Triple X team as a whole was amazing. Low Key fit so well in that. Then he would go on to be Senshi, but yeah, man. Prime time. The only good match he had was that match with Dolph Ziggler at Survivor Series 2010 for the Intercontinental title because they didn't want to go for the world title because he's too fucking small.
Good old Ziggles.
Ziggles, but no, and in his deep voice, Senshi, Low Key. He was great as the X Division champ. Elix Skipper could have done so much more than the Diamond in the Rough and the whole thing with Triple X, but Elix Skipper left the business. Daniels is still doing his thing. It reminds me of NWA Cyberspace. I know I mentioned this last week. Triple X wrestled there. They wrestled against the Solution a lot, which was the Greek God Papa Don and Havoc, God rest his soul, being managed by the Sure Thing John Shane. I mean, again, a lot of those guys around that time period was doing that promotion, NWA Cyberspace. So you got to see a lot of their work in Impact as well as in a independent in New Jersey, Wayne, New Jersey.
Good old Jersey.
Jersey. That also gave us Jersey All Pro, man. The Backseat Boys, rest in peace, Trent Hassett and Johnny Cashmere.
Another team that again, a truly all elite team.
Yes.
Balance.
Oh my God! They had Christopher Daniels got an Appletini over. They were funny with everything that they were wearing from the Marvel stuff, just doing what they did. And they were great. They gelled together. But they made it funny. And Christopher Daniels was the life of the party.
Again, we've talked about him, in the past. Like, how Christopher Daniels is one of those guys, you can't help but like him.
He's a very likable individual. He's funny. He's entertaining.
He is. I like him. He's a good guy. I've never seen anybody say a bad word about him.
Because you can't. He's a veteran, and he helps a lot of the teams that are coming up now. And I mean, we mentioned the teams that are newer, like we mentioned the North. There's Rich Swann and Willie Mack, Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. I mean, the tag teams that they have now in Impact are good, and they're promising. But yeah, the teams that we're mentioning here actually paved the way for the new generation that we have, and I think it's amazing just to see the evolution of tag teams. Because for a while in WWE, remember around the time period we had the Dicks, we had the Heartthrobs, and Impact was giving us LAX and AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. So I mean, hey, it was a catch-22, if you will.
Yeah, Madman Fulton. It's great that he finally got his sanity back.
Sawyer Fulton. Oh God. But no, he lost a lot of weight. I can't say anything bad about him. He looks really, really good.
Dude looks jacked.
Jacked. He's great. But yeah, no, it's funny just because, like I said, we're going through the list of the tag teams. I think we hit a lot of them. I mean, we mentioned the Steiner brothers and obviously Scott Steiner and Petey Williams. Little Petey Pump was great. Rick and Scott did their thing against Team 3D, and the Steiner brothers were amazing to see in TNA.
Now,
yeah.
There's one team left, at least on my list, that we have yet to talk about.
All right, hit me.
We have Beer
Money. Okay.
Which to me,
yes,
I would put them between LAX and Beer Money. To me, are the two greatest teams in Impact history.
I would
in almost 20 years. You think of all the teams that have come down the pike that have held, the NWA tag team titles, the TNA tag titles, the Impact Wrestling tag team titles, the GFW tag titles for that brief second.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff Jarrett. But to me, like the top two teams, Beer Money and LAX. And I'm talking like LAX, both versions.
Yes. So for me, this will tie into all the tag teams too. I mentioned tag teams like Kid Cash and Dallas. I've met in Lance Hoyt, and I mean the Rock and Rave Infection was more of a comedy team, but I always like Jimmy Raven. God bless him. I know he's going through some tough times, and Lance Hoyt, everybody dies. Man, it's funny because we're talking about Beer Money, like James Storm coming from AEW. When he was in Team Canada, I love Team Canada. Robert Roode and Eric Young was that team of the tag team of Team Canada. But when he broke off as a single and James Storm broke off as a single, you put the Boozer Cruiser, this Wall Street type character, Robert Roode, with this cowboy, James Storm. Sorry about your damn luck. And you had Miss Jacqueline by their side. It worked so well.
It did. At first, when I saw her with him, I kind of thought, like, it didn't make sense. But again, they were two guys that benefited from her experience as a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, she is probably one of the classiest ladies to ever come down the pike.
Agreed. I mean, with her experience from the Texas and the territories, then going into WWF, WCW, the whole nine, man.
And I will say this, when she got her Hall of Fame ring, she's one of the people that I legitimately was like, okay, she's earned it.
Oh, for what she's done from 98 to when she was in the WWE in 04. I mean, obviously, the big thing that happened in her last run there was she defeated Chavo Guerrero for the Cruiserweight title. But yeah, no, it was...
Which Chavo? Was it Chavo Classic?
No, she defeated Chavo Guerrero Jr., not Chavo Classic.
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul, yes. But yeah, no, that was the same year that she debuted for TNA. She wrestled Trinity at the Victory Road pay-per-view.
And, again, classy lady. I think she worked with them, and did she manage Beer Money? Because I thought she was only AMW.
No, AMW was, they had Gail Kim with them. Gail Kim was AMW. And Beer Money was Jacqueline. Yes, Miss Jackie.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, from when they first started and they were feuding with guys, well, first and foremost, they got to wrestle Booker T and Scott Steiner. They wrestled, of course, Matt Hardy and Chris Harris, Knock Knock, who's there, Braden Walker, James Storm, Can't Stop Laughing. It's an amazing sight to see. They wrestled, the Motor City Machine Guns we mentioned. They wrestled LAX. They wrestled almost everybody. During the later years of Beer Money, when James Storm came back after doing that one match in NXT, and he decided, hey, I'm going to go back there. They wrestled.
He did two. He did
Yeah.
two.
Oh, he did two. Who was the other one? I know it was Danny Burch, and who was the other one? Was it Adam Rose?
Actually, I think it was Oni Lorcan.
Was it only? Okay. Either way, we'll debate that next week too. So
now,
yeah.
again, he would go on in later interviews and say that he wished he had signed with NXT.
And I think that was a Billy Gunn thing too, because I think Billy Gunn wanted to bring him in because they go back to the TNA days with the James Gang and AMW and all them. But yeah, it's one of those things. He goes back there, and they get the Beer Money reunion. They win the tag titles. They lose it to Decay because Bobby Roode was going to be glorious. And like he'd had the Revolution. It was him, Mahabali Shira, TJP, Sonata, and all these people. The Revolution sooner or later got to cut you down. They did the DCC with him, Bram, and Eddie Kingston, which could have gone way better than it did. But yeah, no, the best years of James Storm were the AMW and Beer Money years because they were a friendship and it worked.
And again, we talked about proper ways to end a tag team.
The beer bottle,
and just like that whole feud to me was just absolutely just.
It went on for a year and a half, man. They really stretched it out. Like they would fight, and then they would come back to each other.
And it was perfect. Like you had James Storm as perfect. Wrestling fans, they like beer and they like fighting. Bobby Roode, I say Big Bob. Who doesn't love Big Bob?
Who doesn't love Big Bob? Absolutely not. Like
he to me is a better heel. And I just remember watching. Then you just see, if I remember the match, it was just the two of them wrestling. We're gonna have a fair competitive match for the title. And then he grabs the beer bottle. And thankfully, it was a gimmick beer bottle, and it wasn't like we won't mention that one episode of Dark Side of the Ring.
No, oh god, but yeah, no, that was the match that really put over. I mean, James Storm beats Kurt Angle, and then they have the match. Bobby returns heel; he's the it factor, and that solidified both men as that sympathetic babyface and Robert Roode that dicky heel. That's how you treat a brother. Bullshit, Mike Tenay on commentary. That just set it up, man, and that was Beer Money, and that was one of, if not the best tag team. They're going to be on the Mount Rushmore for tag teams.
You know what it is? I wish that we could at least get Jim Storm back in NXT, even if it's just for a month. I would love to see a Beer Money reunion just one more time.
Me too, man. Me too.
And to me, they'll always be one of my absolute favorite tag teams in TNA. Between them and LAX, again, one of the biggest things that makes a tag team, the entrance music. You think of great teams, the Steiner brothers, their WCW theme, which, the music, the lyrics were corny as hell.
Steiner line.
But they worked. Yes. You got the Dudleys, WWE. There were various teams in the WWE. Perfect. LAX, the theme that Conan did for them, perfect. Loved it. Mm-hmm. Beer Money. You hear the beer open, the coins fall, and you just hear the shouting of Beer Money. Was perfect.
That is what makes a great tag team, and that makes the great tag teams that we discussed today on the podcast.
Final word, Mike.
Yeah, man.
Who, if you had, of all the teams that we have discussed, Who are your top 2 tag teams in all of TNA history?
I am good. Well, ugh. See, now you're gonna put me on the spot. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Spotlight is on you.
Spotlight's on me. Beer Money, and I'll go AMW just because that's where it all started for me. I go AMW and Beer Money.
Good choices. Good choices.
How about you, Dan?
Again, Beer Money and LAX, both versions, both Homicide and Hernandez, and Santana and Ortiz. Each for various different reasons. I think with the different versions of LAX, each iteration is served a purpose. Homicide and Hernandez kind of represented like the old school TNA days, and Santana and Ortiz, they got over, and I think people saw how good they are. They gel as a team, and my hope for them as a team is once their contracts come up with AEW, stay put.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, it's that classic line from Billy Madison.
Stay here.
Stay here
Stay
for
as
as long as you can. Like, seriously, I feel if they went anywhere else, they would be split up like that. So again, my 2 top tag teams, LAX and Beer Money. Every single person in those teams have been fantastic. Every team that we have covered tonight has been fantastic, with the exception of the honorable mention tag teams, which I could see any of these teams going into the Impact Hall of Fame. Which are they still doing that? I don't know.
Yes, Awesome Kong is going in the Impact Hall of Fame this year, which rightfully deserved.
Well deserved.
Yes.
She's honestly one of the absolute greatest of all time. We've discussed her ad nauseum. I love Awesome Kong. I wish WWE had done more with her. I could see any of these teams in the Impact Hall of Fame. Let's not forget that there is somebody that Impact. I'm just going to make a quick mention aside that they did bring in a former WCW World Champion.
Okay.
David Arquette.
David Arquette was in the tag team in Impact?
For a brief time, he did a couple shows.
Okay.
Like the one-night stand kind of pay-per-view events.
Okay, yeah. And I know that they brought in Johnny Fairplay, like, very briefly, too. Oh, God. No.
Now, I will say this.
Yes.
If they ever put David Arquette in the Impact Hall of Fame or the WWE Hall of Fame, I know who needs to induct him.
Nick Gage.
Yep. Which, as a wrestling aside, and I have the picture saved. Entertainment Weekly just released the other day some pictures, some stills of Scream 5. Which, why they needed to make a 5th one, I don't know. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. And one of the stills was David Arquette.
Mm-hmm.
Clear as day, you can see the scar on his neck from Nick Gage.
Oh, my God. Well, he does leave a lasting mark on people. Look at Matt Cardona.
Look at Mox.
Look at Mox. Look at Jericho.
Mox is another guy who wrestled in TNA for like 2 weeks.
The friggin' purple, the pink hair. Oh, my God. God. So, folks, that has been your tag teams on that note. Friggin', there's that mental image. Friggin' Mox's purple hair, pink hair, and fucking Impact. Ugh. So we'll be back next week for the Adrenaline Rush podcast. I think we'll do one on the knockouts, man. We did tag teams. Let's do one on the knockouts for next week.
I think that's a really great idea. Some will do the best and the worst of the knockouts.
And especially with everything that went on with Knockouts Knockdown, and they're talking about Daphne, God rest her soul. I think it's only apropos. So tune in next week for another edition of the Adrenaline Rush podcast. For Daniel Crimmins, my name is Mike Larkin. Folks, We'll talk to you next week. Say peace out to the people. Crime, crime.
Peace out. And to quote Anchorman, thanks for stopping by.
You stay classy, Impact fans.